It's 5:30. Welcome everybody and welcome to our residents who are Zooming in this evening. Due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with social distancing requirements, the April 2021 Ordinary Council meeting will have limited access for members of the public to attend. The meeting will be live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities. A link to the council meeting will be available via the council website. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or transmitted without the prior consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra, Darug people, and respects the history and culture of elders both past and present. The meeting will be opened in prayer and Councillor Capel will offer the prayer. If you will stand, please.
Almighty God, we humbly ask you to bless this council. We ask also that you help us to use the wisdom you have granted us as we deliberate on issues tonight that will be affecting all of the people of our local government area. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Capel. Page 4, Councillors, item 4, record of attendance. There are no leave of absences this evening. Page 5, item 5, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest this evening?
Madam Mayor, I don't believe I have the declaration of interest, but I do note that in 1303, which deals with water cards, I have returned my water card, so that should not now preclude me from voting on that issue. Okay. So I just note it as a matter of the record.
Page 6, Councillors, item 6, presentations. We have with us this evening Greg Vaughan, President of the Oberon Taranai Heritage Railway, and David McMurray, who will provide a presentation to councillors regarding upcoming works at the Oberon Taranai Heritage Railway Precinct. Welcome. Over to you, Greg.
Everybody should have a colour handout on the desk there in front of them, and I'll produce this just in case there was a complete fail up to the file I gave to Sharon. But it seems to be there at the present time. And so what you've got in front of you is probably what you're going to see here. And I'm under duress here because Kathy's already told me that I better be quick. So
don't believe in councillor.
Anyway, so I'll move along fairly quickly. And yeah, Oberon Taranai Heritage Rail has been in existence now since about 2006, 2007. And we have, various people have worked extremely hard over the 15, 16 years since it's been up and running. So next slide. Are we okay on that one? Some of this is not my work, by the way. This first part of it was done back in 2008 as a publicity thing, and some of you may have seen it somewhere before. And the original line was constructed as a pioneer branch line, which means that it was pretty much, well, in those days it was timber sleepers, fairly light grade rail, and no ballast. It was there. They graded the road, we'll call it the road or the line, where the line was going to go, graded it flat, laid the sleepers and fixed the rail to it with dog spikes. And up until about when steam locomotives cut out, what year was that, about 60, in the mid-60s, and we had mostly 19 class locomotives moving freight in and out of the town. Next slide, please. Now, why is the line being restored? It's got a potential to boost tourism. Tourist visitors boost the local economy. It's close to other tourist attractions. Oberon station is well preserved and in good order. And it's surprising, the last intact short branch line close to Sydney. And much of the surviving infrastructure that was put down is in quite good order. And a lot of that's now, especially between here and Hazelgrove, and that's where I'm focusing tonight, is between Oberon and Hazelgrove. The people who sort of started back in 2006 relayed a lot of the track. They put in a lot of, renewed a lot of sleepers, and it's in quite good order. There'll be a few people in our organisation who would say, there's more to this than meets the eye, Greg. And some of you may know what a gunzel is. A gunzel is a person who's got obsessed by rail, and it's in the dictionary if you want to use it as a Scrabble word. But some of those fellows are we're interested because we're interested in rail. We're not interested in tourism stuff. It's got nothing to do with us. We just want to see the trains running, and we'd like to have steam here and do all these wonderful things. Anyway, there's something in it for everybody here. It's even something for the farmers, Andrew. We've been clearing the line in recent times, and I can tell you where the St John's Wort is down there, where the blackberry bushes are flourishing, and we're going to kill them all.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Much appreciated. Pass on your good work there up in the Quarry County.
Anyway, so next slide, please. So I've just said most of that there. A lot of the line between Hazelgrove and Oberon has had the sleepers relayed in time. The Oberon yard has been improved. The rolling stock shed has been built, and 3 extra rows into the shed have been added. The station building has been refurbished, and the station platform has been rebuilt. And some of the road crossings have been reinstated and upgraded, etc. And Albion Street and Rosemount Road are 2 of those in particular. Next slide, please. And where are we now? We own 2 73 class locomotives, and since about June last year, we have trained up some local people, and they are now licensed or have certification to move the locomotives in the yard, and that's something that hadn't happened before, and it's made it so that we can practice, we can shift, we can make movements, and as we move towards Hazel Grove, those locomotives will be used much more over greater distances. Next slide, please. And we've got 2 photographs here. One of them on back in October when the locomotive shifted the 2 end platform cars out of the rolling stock shed. And we've got Michael O'Kane, who's probably our premier first-class railway carriage restorer. He's taking the, you can see he's finished it on taking the carriage back to the wood there and completely repainting it. And that's taken a lot of, a few people in the organisation quite a lot of time to do that. And we had people from Transport Heritage here last month, and they're very impressed with the work that we've done on them. So Transport Heritage is a part of, works under the banner of Transport for New South Wales, and we've got those on the 2 end platform cars and custodial management agreement, which means we keep them undercover, we keep them neat and tidy, we repair them when it needs repairs, etc., and everybody benefits. Next slide, please. We have a committee with experience in administration. We have people who are expert in rail infrastructure, financial expertise, publicity, and writing grant applications, as well as people who don't mind putting in the long hours of pulling sleepers out and putting new ones in. Next slide, please. So we've got line managers, which boosts the overall number of volunteers that we've got, and the line managers aren't necessarily members of the committees. Somebody like the rolling stock manager, driver training, and so we've got a fair bit of organisation and expertise in the organisation. And I did a recent 12-monthly tally of the total hours of volunteer hours worked, and their dollar value was $170,000, and that was probably a bit light on, I think, because I don't know how much work Dave spent when he does a grant application, so I didn't add those figures in. But
is that $10 an hour?
No. When you're going for a grant application, Andrew, what happens is that they say, well, what's your input going to be? And you're allowed to say, well, we're going to put 1,000 hours in, and they say that you can claim $30 per hour. So if it's 1,000, that'd be 300,000 or something. Anyway, so next slide, please. I won't labour on that particular one. Now, this is probably one on here more than everything. CDG 1296. This is the grant that was given or bestowed upon us by Andrew G just before the election in 2019, and it's for $1.5 million. And Gary will be able to confirm the fact that there's been a lot of toing and froing with the Canberra between OTHR. And the first thing we had to do to get our fingers on the money was actually convince them that we're actually an organisation that could handle that sort of money and that sort of responsibility. And in the end, we managed to convince them that we could do that. And the final agreement was actually only signed back in January, February of this year. And so far, we've had our first milestone payment paid out to us of $50,000. And that $50,000 has been, I've got to get this right, has been used at this point in time to employ well, it's called Rail Planning Services, a company. We had a scope of works that was prepared by our Vice President, Ken Lingabala. And Ken is a railway person. He's an expert in Perway, and that means track. And he's worked for ARTC, John Holland Rail, and he's worked as a consultant. And he and a number of us we managed to walk the track between Hazel Grove and Oberon and counted the number of sleepers. And so we had a scope of works, which we've then handed over to Rail Planning Services. And in recent times, if you would have seen the surveyors down the line, so we've had surveyors down the line, we've had other people looking at the line from that particular, and they, Rail Planning Services was the successful tenderer, and we put it out to 5 different groups that Ken recommended these people would be interested. No point in getting people in that don't know what we're talking about. And so the Rail Planning Services have undertaken to have the tender documents ready by the end of this particular month. And so there will be a period of time where we look at the tender documents, and then we will find out who's interested in doing the job and letting those tender documents out. And from there, the what have we got? 100, 1.5 and 2,000. There's going to be probably another $1.4 million spent between here and Hazel Grove in the next 12 months. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I just wanted people to listen to what I want to say tonight, that the money won't be wasted. It will end up with a fairly much a quality job done between here and Oberon. We do know that Rail Planning Services are recommending that we still need to replace 3,000 sleepers between here and there. There will be lengths of rail. There will be modifications to some of the level crossings. There will be work on culverts, etc., etc. So the money is there. It's being spent, and we're working on that at the moment. I think we might move to the next one. And so you can see there that really we're over on Taranai Heritage Railways is really over onto Hazel Grove at this point in time in March 2001. I've just gone through most of that there. We've got a tender document is being prepared at this point in time. Next slide, please. As we go through this particular process, there's other work that needs to be done, and that's one of the reasons why the job takes so long, that we have to work with ONSA, which is the Office of National Rail Safety Regulator, and we need to vary our current accreditation from Oberon Yard to Hazel Grove. we need to have a very robust safety management system in place to coincide with application to move out to Oberon. And we've had a Zoom meeting in recent times with last week with the ONSA. They're coming back towards the end of May to have another visit. Next slide, please. And the future. We've got a rail made there, and that's owned by Patterson Points, which is a Heritage Rail Group. Over the Easter long weekend, Patterson Points had that particular, well, they had a rail motor out at Bathurst, and our driver trainer, Dennis Turner, is he operates with us. He's trained our locomotive drivers. We've got he also drives trains for Lachlan Valley Rail, Patterson Points, and he was actually driving one of the Patterson Points locomotives out at on the Bathurst weekend, and he instigated a discussion with them, and Patterson Point said, well, as a Heritage Rail Group, we would like to bring people from Central Station up to Taranai, transport them up to buses and into Oberon for weekends and things like that. And I'm just using that as an example of what might happen in the future. Full trainload of people, 2 carriages full or something like that. So that's something to do that could happen in the future. I think if you hit the button now, I'm not sure what happens here. I haven't done it before.
Hopefully the train leaves the station.
No, that's okay. That train's meant, that locomotive's meant to move, but it's not going to.
Can't start it.
Now, look, is there any questions? I know it's been a bit quick, and all I wanted to do really was to say that we're moving through the process of getting the money from Canberra into Oberon, basically. And
Can I just say, congratulate the group, because this is really gaining some momentum now, and it's really good to see. And you guys just work so hard. We do appreciate it. Are there any questions? Councillor Kibbon.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Greg, you've got some drivers trained to shunt around the Oberon yard,
Yes.
so they have to be further trained to run on the Hazel Grove line, or is that part of the ONSA accreditation?
Just repeat that question.
You said you had drivers currently
Yes, yeah.
trained to shunt around the Oberon yard. To extend that training to be able to operate trains to Hazel Grove,
Yeah.
what further training do they require, or is it part of, or does the line just have to be accredited?
No,
Yeah,
we will have to, what will have to happen is that Dennis Turner is Dennis Turner is just recently retired. He retired from SSR, which is Southern Short Haul Rail, and he also had contractual work with the instruction company, which is based in Junee, and he will. Well, he's over here. He was here last Saturday. He'll be here next Saturday. So he will actually have to take a locomotive out on the line once it's done, and learn the track.
Yes.
Come back, and he will have to do that, and then he will take the people that are currently qualified,
For the yard.
and they will have to learn the track. Now,
Do they have to get an accreditation?
the accreditation will be the same. They are accredited, but before you can move a locomotive anywhere, if you were working with, say, for Southern Short Haul, and you wanted to take a coal train from Lithgow to Central, not that they go to Central, but down to Sydney, you would end up having to learn the track. And then you learn it from somebody who's experienced. In this case, Dennis has done that with plenty of drivers at various times. Does that answer your question?
Yes. If I could, second. So I think you spent 50,000 for the rail planner, spending 1.4 million on the track to Hazel Grove.
Yes.
There's 52,000 remaining. What are you spending that on?
Say that again.
You got a grant of 1.502.
Yeah.
1.502 million.
Yeah.
You said you're spending 50,000 on the rail planner.
Yeah.
1.4 on the track between Taranai and Hazel Grove. So you'll have 50 odd thousand left. What are you spending that on?
That's a contingency.
And if I could,
Actually, that was pretty loose. I was doing the maths on the feet. Really. That's pretty hard. Anyway,
and if I could, as you know, we've had current problems on the Jenolan Road with landslips.
yes.
So when you're getting this line extended to Taranai, so they couldn't bring the tourists in via that line, what is it going to cost to go to Taranai from Hazel Grove?
Well, it depends on who's actually doing it and what you were doing. If we wanted to have a Kenlinga Barlin costed it to go from, this is in here as a refurbished heritage line, 78 million. Okay, but if there's, am I allowed to say anything else here? No.
Well, I didn't catch that, but right, okay.
Talk to Kathy. I'm not saying anymore.
I think what Andrew's asking is how much it's going to cost, or what is Ken calculated using the heritage line.
Yeah, it's 70, around 70 million. You know,
70
you've got
million,
a,
yeah.
you've got two bridges there, which
Yeah.
are going to take $1
Is that
million
what you're asking?
before you
Yes,
start. And you know, the Fish River and the other bridge,
yes.
one of them, you know, you wouldn't want to drive a go-kart over it; it would collapse.
Mm.
And then if you go between Hazel Grove and Carlwood,
Carlwood, yes.
it's pretty rugged as you go down the hill. And we, well, sort of about April of last year, we actually had our heritage licence application in to go to Carlwood. And in the end, we pulled out of it because we, as an organisation, we don't have enough volunteers, we don't have enough money, and the job's too big. You know, the only way we could do it would be to have a guarantee from the government to actually do it. You know, there's no way that a volunteer organisation can do the work. Have you been down that line? You would have been down it, and there are areas there where there's where the cliff has actually come down onto the line. There's washaways. It's pretty rugged to go from Hazelwood to Carlwood, and from there on, from Carlwood on, the big thing is to get the two bridges more than anything, and then yeah.
Get the railway line back.
Well, yeah,
Council line,
yeah.
Buckland, Casey.
There's all sorts of problems there.
So we couldn't get it done. Sorry, we couldn't get it under the replacement of wooden bridges project. They have to be road bridges. Is there a specification that it has to be road bridges?
I don't know.
It doesn't quite fit the criteria now.
What's the
We'd be
criteria?
happy to work with you, Andrew, if you got that over the line.
How's the cable?
Are there any other questions?
Greg, you made reference to safety management systems.
Yes.
What exactly is involved with the safety management system that you're talking about? You said, what did you say? You're upgrading it or working on the safety management system. What's involved?
If you go on the ONSA website, you'll find there are 27 categories of areas that we have to address as part of our safety management system. Every one of those would have between 3 and 15 documents, and it runs, for example, I filled in a form for a ONSA monthly report. And one of the things that you would do is that we're moving towards having locomotive movements out in the public arena. You would have to have risk management. And in September and October, we had 3 meetings with ONSA down here. They came and we worked through. So there has to be a whole risk management section. On the other side of that, we've got to have people knowing that if they come along, even as a volunteer, is really is regarded as an employee. If you come to work at the railway and are under the influence of drugs and alcohol and all of that, the responsible person has to say goodbye, you know, and then, you know, there has to be sort of regular checks on that sort of material. So we've got two: risk management, drugs and alcohol, and then asset management. If you've got these in-platform cars and locomotives, they have to be certified to a particular, you know, fit for use standard. And so that's part of the SMS documents.
Very
So
detailed.
we could go on our website and click on SMS documents and you'll see that, you know, it's almost impossible to sort of define, but there are a number of different categories associated. There's governance, you know, how do you hold a toolbox meeting before you start a working meeting? All that sort of material has to be, is part and parcel of it. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Councillor McCarthy.
Greg, what happens with Robert Christie Johnson's interests along there? As you probably know, the actual railway line, or Mr. Christie Johnson's original ground, comes back towards south of Oberon, the Brothers Ridge, didn't it? Where in that gully there was a stock grid there on the railway line.
Yes, what?
There was a stock grid. I think there's a
Yes.
yeah there. So does he have to put a stock grid, or are you going to put the stock grid on his property?
We could put gates there instead of a stock grid.
But there's no guarantee that they're going to be shut or let. Is it-
If there are
there's
gates
gates across
there,
there
we
now.
will open and close them.
Okay,
as
all right,
need be.
that's fine.
If there's a stock grid there, we will make sure, well, it's part of the job,
Okay,
and rail planning services have looked at all of those,
okay.
and they will have made recommendations as to which needed action and which don't need action.
Can we find out what the action is and let us know?
Well,
So,
it'll come out in the tender documents, yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right.
Councillor Hickman.
Yeah, Craig, you might not have the timing quite right here, but I think you mentioned somewhere in the next 18 months, you hope to have the line money spent, and the line open to Hazelwood.
Correct.
What's the plans around the level crossing? The one at Albion Street and the one that blows out? I'm only asking because of the volume. I know you're not going to be running it every hour on the hour, 7 days a week, but there is a lot of heavy traffic 24/7 in and out of those plants.
Yeah,
At the moment.
Albion Street's one semi-trailer every minute
Yeah, and,
during working hours.
you know, you can see some rather large delays. Well, not large, but you can see delays and frustration with heavy traffic and also passenger vehicles coming in and out of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There has to be, each level crossing have to have what is called a level crossing interface agreement, and that has to be done between ourselves and the council. And then so we'll look at that to make sure that what is intended to happen is there. But at the present time, we would be, you know, we're talking about running maybe, Saturday or a Sunday on, you know, maybe 2 or 3 train movements. And so you're going to have one going out and one coming back, maybe one going out and one, that's 4 train movements across Albion Street and 4 across Lowesmount Road. And at the present time, the plan is that we won't be usurping the rails right of way. We will actually stop and make sure that everything is safe before we proceed across.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only other question I had was around the costs associated with the management of level crossing. Does that come out of the 1.5 million?
Yeah, if the level crossings need to be refurbished and pulled up and redone, that will come out of the 1.5. Yeah. It costs about $75,000 to do each one. So rail planning services have looked at that, and they will be making recommendations as to which ones need to be pulled up and renewed, etc., etc. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, excellent presentation.
Any other questions? Councillor? Thank you very much, Greg
No
and
problem.
David.
I hope I didn't take too much.
No, you're
No.
dead on time.
Very good to hear.
Thank you so much for coming in, and it's also very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Dave. Great.
Thank you. I'll leave you to it.
I might take off as well.
Good luck.
Good night.
for your attention.
Good night,
Yeah.
thanks. Good night. Okay, councillors, we're back to the normal meeting. We're on page 6 and we're on section 7, questions from the public. Are there any questions from the gallery this evening? No questions from the public, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have-
I'm
just here to
watch, sorry.
You nodded no. Item 8, confirmation of minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 16th of March 2021 be confirmed. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Capel and Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Any business arising?
Just a statement on the requirement to report to Councillor McKibben.
What page are you on, councillor?
Is the notice of motion one on page 6. Independent living.
Yep.
Yeah. My understanding, the general manager indicated that it'd come back in a confidential report. Due to the requirement of the gas was a contractual thing for the builder, that should be in open council because there's 3 other parties have that information as well, so it's not confidential.
Through the chair, that's not my recollection. There'll be a number of reports. Whatever's confidential will go into confidential.
Okay,
Whatever's public will go into public.
okay. Now, I just want to make sure that that part's in the public arena because there was 3 other builders that weren't successful and they have that information.
As the council is aware, there's only certain things you can put in confidential, and that's what we intend to do.
Thank you.
Councillor John.
Mayor, just 1301, pages 9 and 10. I did speak at length on that report, both commending some aspects of it, criticising others. But I also, on the basis that I had no justification, I couldn't vote against it, and I did vote for it. But that's just not reflected in the minutes.
You're talking the vote on page
Top of page
10. Councillor Jones. So we'll get that fixed up. Thank you, councillor. Any other business from the minutes? I'll put that recommendation all in favour. Carried, thank you. Works Committee meeting, 30th of March 2021. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Works Committee meeting held on the 30th of March 21 be confirmed. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKechnie, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Capel, thank you. Any business arising? Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, just a small one. On the purchase of the Thai and Ripper, I thought, I could be wrong, that we got a multi-time Ripper. But on page 4, we got a single time Ripper.
Oh,
What you said was a multi. It was a multi. We'll change that.
I didn't hear. Where's it? I couldn't find it.
What page are you on, councillor?
Page 4 of the
Page 4,
Works Committee.
councillor. Thank you.
It's supposed to be 3 times, isn't it?
Yeah, halfway down the page on
Yep,
the,
got it.
Confirmation minutes.
Any other business arising, councillors? Put the recommendation all in favour. Carried, thank you. Page 7, councillors, mayoral minute and report. Can I have someone to move that the report item is received as information? Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Kellam, thank you. Wish to speak to this, Councillor McCarthy?
Madam Mayor, all I can say that you've been busy.
Councillor Kellam?
Madam Mayor, on the 6th of April, I note that there was correspondence forwarded with Mr. Toole concerning the state of the roads between here in the Great Western Highway, in particular the Sodwalls Road and the Magpie Hollow Road. I can't count the number of people who have spoken to me about the state of those roads and how dangerous they are to travel on.
Mhm.
And it's very important that we have gone straight to the local member. I think we probably should follow that in the near future as well.
I will be following that up. I will say that Minister Toole has referred that to Transport New South Wales, who have referred it to Lithgow Council, and they're working together on that. But I'm certainly happy to follow that up. Councillor McKibben.
On the same issue, Madam Mayor, I would say, having travelled that way recently, early in the morning, it is horrendous with the sun in your eyes. And a couple of cars that were nearly accidents in front of me. As you go to the crest, you cannot see on that road with the sun in your eyes. It's worse than any other road in the district. So I don't know how we avoid that. Obviously, the width of the road doesn't assist, but I don't know if we need a warning sign or something for people travelling early in the morning. It really is. You know, Claudia, who was driving with me, said, "How are you keeping your eyes open?" She said, "I just can't do it. The sun in your eyes."
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Donny.
Correspondence on the 17th of March. Mayor Michael English, Oberon Golf Club, request for use of bridge timbers at the Oberon Golf Club. Response provided. Nature of request and the response.
The golf club would ask if they could have some of the old Abercrombie bridge timbers to incorporate with their build of a recreation area outside the club, and I believe we had no objection to that, and I believe they've been over and had a look at them, and I think that's all in progress. They're going to use some of those bridge timbers.
Okay, that's good. And I think it's good. And how much of those timbers have gone or are still in the council depot? Do you know?
Through the director, I know they've used them on the signage, and now they've used them at the golf club.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I'm just wondering.
There was quite a few.
Yes, still through this year, there's still a substantial amount of timber there. The golf club was looking at acquiring 6 to 8 lengths, 5 metre lengths of timber to build an outdoor area.
And through you, Madam Mayor, again, relating to that Swallow's Nest, the
Swallow's Nest and Ball Bridge.
High Hollow.
Those
Bridges, sorry.
I did request that we do the same thing with those timbers. We reclaim what's reclaimable and put it back into possession for use by people over time. Is that still in the Director of Technical Services or the Mayor's mind, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, through the chair, that's certainly the case. Yes.
Thanks very much. And also on 7th of April, Madam Mayor, page 9, Samantha Sin raising concern about illegal water harvesting. Can we give us some more information on that?
Samantha Sin is concerned about the number of dams being created on Waldara in relation to a dried up creek. And she has put in an official complaint to the authority, and she and I have also forwarded that to Water New South Wales on her behalf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors, on this one? The recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 10, councillors, notices of motion. 10.01, request to extend the speed zone on Abercrombie Road. The motion is that council request Transport for New South Wales to review the existing 80-kilometre speed limit at the Oberon town entrance on Abercrombie Road and consider reducing this speed limit to 60 kilometres an hour to a reasonable distance south of the equestrian centre. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Lyon. A seconder, please. Councillor Capel, thank you. Wish to speak to this, Councillor Lyon?
Yes, this speed limit hasn't changed in 12 years that I've been using that road, but the uses of it has changed with the new subdivision. What concerns me most is that the trucks coming up over the crest of the hill to the Reef Road, where it used to just be local traffic would come out of there, but we have campers, caravans, boat trailers, all sorts of traffic coming from there now, and also coming out of the equestrian centre. You've got large trailers loaded with horses, that can't pull up quickly. So my suggestion is that we move it the 60 kilometre, if we can, past the equestrian centre.
Councillor Cagle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think it's fair enough if somebody's concerned about something to ask for a review, and the appropriate authority will make the decision.
Councillor McKibben.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would have thought that this matter should be referred to the traffic committee. It has.
No, it's a regional road, Councillor.
Oh, it is a regional road. Okay. So, all right, we're referring it to the
Transport.
transport. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? This one, Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I honestly think in the long term, I think this will become a milking ground for the police. And I know when I was on the traffic committee before, the equestrian centre had their own traffic control that was given to them, that when they have an event on, they can actually put signs out to let people know and reduce the speed. So that's already been addressed in previous things, and I think the speed's already been addressed in previous times. So, you know, it doesn't hurt maybe to have a look at it, but I think you'll find it'll end up a milk and field for the police, to be honest. It's a long, clear road, it's got good vision, and yeah. So, anyway.
Any other comments on this one, Councillor? Councillor McKibben.
Yes, I have some doubts on whether it will help. It's one of the wider, clearer approaches to town. There's already a significant drop back for quite a distance out that way anyway. I have to agree with Councillor McCarthy that after what I saw this afternoon, it could be a revenue raising opportunity for some people. So I had some reservations about moving it out that far. As I said, it's over 1 kilometre from the equestrian centre to the reef turn off. The reef turn off down to the turn off into Rupert Street is very clear, and you can see all the way down there, right around down past John Bryan's. So I can't see the issues really. I know you're not up there all the time, and there would be issues. There are everywhere, as Councillor McKibben mentioned on the Sidewalls Road. There are issues with people doing the wrong thing on freeways everywhere. So I can't see reducing the speed limit as the be all and end all of the issue. So I can't support that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Just while we're on this matter, and it's a little bit different, we have to support the local log industry. When there's a funeral and out there past the cemetery, they distinctively slow down, and lots of times they don't use their exhaust brake. So you've got to give credit where credit is due.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, Councillor Gibbons?
Yes, I just feel with that new subdivision, it's got, you know, really good sight distance. It's got ease-in lanes and overtaking lanes there. If we start bringing it back to 80 or 60, you know, we'll be looking at Seals Creek Road then, which is not near as good. And I mean, it's 100 kilometres an hour out there. So probably support coming to the top of the hill, leading in to where the road comes in from the reef. Where are the signs there? I'm not too sure. But
Right at the Reef Road.
yeah, and it's a 60, isn't it?
It goes to 60 matter of metres from the Reef Road. The
And
trucks are coming up over the hill. They don't have much of a sight.
I think there's a reason that you could have a look at introduce the 60 kilometre zone as you come over the hill on the cemetery side.
At the Bracken then
Councillor
turn off.
Madam Mayor, I think there's limited evidence about the Bracken Ridge estate. I think it has excellent sight lines and excellent approaches onto the road. So I think that's a limited issue. I won't comment on the equestrian centre, although I'll take the advice from Councillor McCarthy that they have their own traffic control authority during events. But this is a letter that we're sending to Traffic New South Wales, or for Transport New South Wales. So, you know, let's just send the letter and ask them if they think it's worthwhile. If not, they will say so.
Any other comments, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? 1, 2. All motions carried. Thank you, councillors. Page 11, item 1002, caps for O'Connell Recreation Ground fence. The motion is there that council utilise part of O'Connell Village Fund allocated for 2021 year to purchase and install caps on the new O'Connell Recreation Ground fence. Refer quote QU0073 on the 23rd of February 2021 at a cost of $1,830 plus 60 equals $1,890. Furthermore, should this project under the current funding application yield any savings, that the O'Connell Village Fund be reimbursed these monies for use in other upcoming local projects. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Doney, and seconder, please. Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Would you speak to this, Councillor Doney?
Madam Mayor, I think the reasons are pretty straightforward. It's just really an administrative thing. When we last dealt with this, the caps was the only item that was not clearly funded. We were talking about extra timbers needed and preservation spray on the fences, but we didn't nail the caps. Rather than wait until there's a reconciliation later on in the project to see if there's any available money left over for caps then, I just thought if we can just order them now and identify the funding source, it will just save that brief delay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy, you speak.
I just support it in respect that it'll give that wooden fence a lot longer life, longer life, as the original concrete one that we proposed would have a longer one. But anyway, we've gone with the timber one. And
we proposed.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, and I actually seen one of the concrete post and rail one on the weekend while I was away down Wagga, and I had to pull up and make sure it was concrete. But yeah, they really do it good. So when you're in a car, you can't pick that it's concrete.
If you're walking beside it, you can.
Councillor, you finished, Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you.
Yep, Councillor McKibben.
Look, thank you very much. I support this, but I just like a little more detail. So the 1830 plus 60 is including installation, I'm assuming. Why is it plus 60? What's the plus 60?
Was the costing on the, I'd have to call up 23rd of February. It was, I think it was 2 different sizes. I think. I'm not sure what the 60 was for.
Okay, are these galvanised metal? Are they in
I
keeping?
assume so.
Through
Are
the
they-
chair, please, councillor.
Oh, sorry.
Are they in keeping with the heritage nature of this fence to have galvanised caps? They may very well be. I'm just asking the Heritage Committee people who are on this council. That's number one.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I think we did mention that, discuss that with the General Manager and the Director of Technical Services, that we would be looking for low coloration or galvanised plain caps.
That's in keeping with heritage. I'm assuming it is. You're happy with that?
I'll
Through the
fences
chair,
have
I'll
caps.
make the comment that is known to be a practice that's incorporated into fences of this nature.
I know it's currently incorporated into fences of this nature. I'm not sure that it was originally. My only question is, if it isn't, should they be a different colour? But anyway, I will leave that to the people who are on the Heritage Committee. Secondly, is it, these caps normally are obviously square. They tap on with a rubber hammer and 2 nails are put in. Can't the installation be done by the O'Connell Community Group?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I guess depending on the nature of the caps, if the contractor, the fencer, felt it was a simple enough job that a bunch of community members could do, I see no reason why they would not be keen to do that.
I mean, I don't know of the 1830 plus 60, 1890, how much is installation and how much is the metal caps.
That
To
was
the director.
through you, Madam. I think that was per item.
Normally metal caps are pretty cheap, $2 or $3 each.
Yeah, it is.
Through the chair, I don't think there was a labour component put there. It was just more for information at the time regarding the two different sizing caps that would possibly be options to put on the tops of the posts.
So the 1890s for the caps alone.
That's correct.
Right,
My
no
understanding.
installation.
Correct.
Okay, well, we might have to then amend that motion.
How does council sit with the council asset being fixed up by a community group? How does that?
Oberon does it all, Barry does it all the time, don't they?
I'll just go to the general manager for some clarification.
Through the chair, if it was done in an appropriate way that would meet the
No problem.
requirements, I don't see any problem with what the nature of the work would be in this instance. I think it'd be reasonably simplified.
I mean, I think you just need a couple of rubber hammers and maybe if they're nailed on, they've got 2 holes, just nail. But if the quote
Through you,
doesn't,
Madam Mayor, no objection at all.
through you, Madam Mayor, if the quote 1890 doesn't include installation, it's just purely the materials, well, we've probably got to amend the motion in any event to say to purchase and install by.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think the quote from which it was taken was the quote for all the materials of the fence, and then there was a labour price.
Through the chair, we don't have a copy of the
I'm just
of
trying
the
to look it up.
document at this point.
Madam Mayor, if we're having to go back to other quotes, may I suggest that we amend the first paragraph to authorise a sum of up to $2,500 for the caps. To be sourced by the O'Connell Community Group.
O'Connell Village Fund, Village Fashion.
Sorry, to be paid for by Oberon, sorry, O'Connell Village Fund.
So the amendment is, councillor?
That purchase and install caps on the new O'Connell Recreation Ground fence up to a cost of $2,500.
Do I have a seconder?
I have a question, if I might, on that.
I need a seconder before we can discuss
Happy
this.
to second it.
You need the first one.
Sorry.
You'll need it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, and so was councillor Carr. Councillor Craig, thank you.
Okay.
My reason for that, Madam Mayor, is I think that we may find that there may be some more expensive caps will be more suitable, and if so, we give the community group the latitude to do that. And if that comes in at 1890, well, that's well and good.
Would you like to speak to the amendment, councillor Craig?
No, thank you.
Anyone else speaking to the amendment, councillor Kibbett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a council, I didn't think we could direct how the $5,000 paid into the O'Connell Village Fund is to be spent. We give them the $5,000, if that's what we're giving them this year. They determine how they spend that $5,000 and come back to account to us, don't they?
With how they want to spend it.
Mm.
So through the chair, each community group provide a letter indicating what they want to spend it on, and it gets voted at council.
Okay, I thought that we just gave them 5,000, they spent that how they like.
No.
Through the chair, no, that's never the case.
Okay. I'm happy with the amendment.
Anyone else speaking to the amendment?
Just for information, Madam
Councillor
Mayor, I
Jordan.
have the quote up on, what was it? It was the 26th of February, though the quote was dated the 23rd of February from Kia Ora Rural Contractors. And the tin caps, a snug fit 7x7, 183 at $10 each. And the tin caps snug fit 9x9. So they might be the corner posts or the turner
Yes,
posts.
they're the strainer posts, of course.
6 at $10 each. $1,890. So that's why there's two prices. And that's what they reflect, just the cost of the cap. And then the quote goes down to just have costs. And then there's obviously an allowance for labour within the quote. For your information.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, does that, through you to the Director of Technical Services, does that incorporate the additional fence that we have done for the extra 75 metres? Because there are probably 2 larger posts plus a number of others, maybe 3 extra posts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Up Beaconsfield Road, the top of Beaconsfield up to the basically the church.
Through the chair, the quotation that was received was for the additional 75 metres with the option of post caps for council's consideration at the time. I can't be clear on the actual labour component of fitting those, but assume that certainly wouldn't be of a great value to have them fitted.
No, sorry, Madam Mayor, that's the question was, we have the existing fence along O'Connell Road. We have the initial piece of fence up Beaconsfield Road that went to about the gateway. Then we have the additional fence after that, went from the gateway that was indented for the water trucks that goes up to the church.
The quote would
Does the quote include all those posts, or does it only include the part at O'Connell Road and the first section along Beaconsfield Road? I would have thought we might have more end posts than 6, is what it's tweaked with me.
Through the chair, but that would probably, I'd say would be the case. So yes, I'd have to take that on notice. I think the numbers here would increase, yes.
But I do note that in Councillor Kellam's amendment, there is extra money there that would cover this, should this be the case.
And I would also note, Madam Mayor, that one of the staff had looked at a number of these post caps and they can vary quite dramatically in price and quality.
Yes.
It may be that having that extra $500 or $600 in there will be great advantage to the community group.
Well,
Okay.
Sorry, and the snug fit, when timber shrinks, they don't become snug. That's why you need ones with holes for nails. But anyway, I'll leave that to the experts.
Okay, guys, I'm putting the amendment that council utilise part of O'Connell Village Fund allocation for 2020-21 year to purchase and install caps on the new O'Connell Recreation Ground fence up to the value of $2,500. Furthermore, should this project under the current funding application yield any savings, that the O'Connell Village Fund be reimbursed these monies for use in other upcoming local projects. All in favour? Carried unanimously. The amendment now becomes the motion. All in favour of the motion? Carried, thank you.
It's too late to have it done in gold, is it?
There is
Councillors, page 12, Councillor and Delegates Report, 1101. Central New South Wales Joint Organisation Board Meeting, 11th of March 2021. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Kellam, thank you, and Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Councillor Kellam, wish to speak to this?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I attended that meeting and I found it particularly interesting in a number of areas, particularly the presentation on Wangilla Dam and what's happening there or what may not happen. The communications aspect of this meeting was, I thought, a bit underwhelming. It was a bunch of retail telcos talking about what they can do for you as long as you make a complaint. And rather than telcos telling us what their strategy is for providing better telecommunications in the rural areas of Australia. And it was, yes, I was quite disappointed with that side of it. I commend the report.
Councillor McCarthy.
I know it's pretty straightforward, and I see you're going to take us up with the local member about this transport over the mountains. Thank you.
Do that. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Several issues. First of all, maybe the Wangilla Dam. Has there been any further communications from Central West Water as to whether they've heard anything as to what's happening with that?
No, I've heard nothing.
A second thing in relation to the communications forum. I spoke to a Mr. Joshua Ford, I think his name was, at that meeting. He took down notes of several issues I raised. I've heard nothing. And I have emailed him 3 times since then, to which no response has been forthcoming.
Well, I will tell you, I've also contacted this gentleman, invited him to come out to Oberon, talk to our community and our council, and we're in current negotiations as far as a date. He's agreed to come. We're just going to set a date.
It doesn't respond to emails.
He responded tomorrow.
Well, it's obviously me.
I doubt that, councillor.
And just following on for a third point, I didn't see it here, but Councillor McCarthy mentioned the transport over the Blue Mountains. Was it a New South Wales Farmers meeting the other day where the president of the New South Wales Farmers for New South Wales said they were pushing very strongly on the transport, and it was communicated that it had taken people often 8 to 10 hours to get over the Blue Mountains after the Easter weekend. It was dreadful both ways. With the Bells line closed and it was acknowledged. He did ask for a copy of the paper that we had sent on in relation to tunnels, so I will send him that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Cullen?
Madam Mayor, just to provide some information on the Wangler Dam, the community consultation was announced as commencing this week. So the process has started. I'm not quite sure how far that will get.
Just while you're on the Wangler Dam thing, we had the minister on TV the other night, and it just shows you how naive they are when someone brought up that the thing only fills up 4 times in 20 years. And that minister just went straight over her head. That there'll be no real benefit of raising the wall of that dam to the community out there.
I'll take those comments, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Jones.
Madam Mayor, there's also, encouraged to hear that, Councillor McCarthy, there's also another issue that will probably hit the media very soon, is that Lake Cowal at West Wylam, largest inland lake in New South Wales, is also a major bird breeding area, and their concern is a very strong group up there made of most of them farmers, that the lifting the wall will reduce or take additional flow if it's available, and that Lake Cowal may in fact not get any water, which is a significant concern.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, councillors? Councillor McKibben.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. I don't note on page 17, so that the board noted the report on progressing the resolve of the board regarding connecting the 2 wests. I wasn't quite noting
The Western Sydney Airport and Lisco.
2 wests.
You might recall the previous JO meeting, in my report, there was a
Yes, I do remember
summary
that.
on that. That's what that relates to.
Could I also suggest, and it follows on from the Inland Rail project, and was comment on the New South Wales farmers, that if the rail line between Orange in particular and Lithgow will have to be straightened at some stage in the future, and we do not want another inland rail fiasco where they actually go to the landholders just after they've announced the project or in the throes, that they should be at least planning the route now and negotiating and putting some money to do that before they even get there 10 years before the event, so that they have a route and they've negotiated with the landholders and come to an agreement, rather than have the situation with the inland rail where it's all ended up being a very difficult situation because it's all happened at the 11th hour.
Thank you,
But that might be something for the JO to consider.
Let me bring that
I'm
up.
raising that, yes.
I'm putting recommendation, councillors, all in favour. Carried, thank you. Page 19, councillors, 1102, Oberon Business and Tourism Association meeting. The recommendation is that the report is received as information. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Capel, a seconder, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Capel, do you wish to speak to the report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the report covers what happened.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben?
No, I think the report speaks for itself, and it's pleasing to see that as a secretary now being in the issue.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, councillors? Councillor McCarthy?
In the report, it says here that more cabins going into the park. Does that mean there'll be less spaces for caravans?
Logically, I would think so.
Yeah, and that's something council might have to look at in the future. That it's getting that way that there's not many sites left over there.
Thank you, councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation all in favour. Carried. Thank you. Page 20, councillors, 1201, CTA Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. The recommendation is the report be received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kellam, thank you. A seconder, Councillor McKibben, thank you. Councillor Kellam?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The last Audit Risk Improvement Committee meeting was the first one we've had in the year, which was face to face, which was novel. It was reasonably routine, basically tidying up a number of issues along with the final audit management letter and risk management processes that we're putting in place. In terms of managing the Audit and Risk Committee, one of the independent members presented a self-assessment form, which we have taken and reshaped so that it reflects the terms of reference that we work under. It's become apparent that the terms of reference have not been adhered to by the ARIC particularly well. And that reflects a number of things, but mostly what we want to do is get it back on track so that if we've got terms of reference, we stick to them and we run our meetings and the workflow to meet those terms of reference. And it's pretty straightforward. It's about looking at not just financial audits, but performance audits and general policy issues, and how well that policy suits the operations of our council.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if the terms of reference could be circulated to remind us as to what the terms of reference are of ARIC, so we understand what policies. I'm just asking in relation to this. I know that the interim, it's in the page 23, the request for the interim report by the Administrator of the Central Coast Council to be circulated for councillors for information. I think it'd be interesting for Oberon Council to look at that as well, just for information purposes. We can obtain a copy of that. So
it is online, but we can circulate it.
Okay, or a link to the wherever it is. I also note, I'm just questioning in relation to risk reporting, etc. We deals quite a lot about the audit, what's happening in relation to the risk management procedures, as that's being reviewed by the audit committee, I understand.
It is. At the moment, the process for us has been the risk appetite workshops that were done 6 weeks ago. As part of that process, so we understand what the risk appetite is across the broad range of activities which the council undertakes, and that will then go into our risk management policy and process.
And is that going to be circulated?
It will be. It will have to be
ratified by council.
Yeah.
So when's that likely?
Through the chair, it will be a program that council themselves are very much involved in over the coming months.
I realise it will be involved. Yeah, just the coming months. Okay, thank you. I'm pleased to second the report.
Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation all in favour. Thank you. page 29, councillors, item 1202. Local Emergency Management Committee. Recommendation is that the minutes of the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting held on the 8th of February 2021 are received as information. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, a seconder, please. I'm sorry, Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor McKibben, do you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report speaks for itself.
Thank
Move the
you.
recommendation.
Councillor Capel, do you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, very comprehensive minutes. I don't have anything to add.
Any comments on this one, councillors? Councillor
Just one comment on the road blockage at Hampton, still having people asking when it'll be open, and do we have any knowledge of that?
Not a certain knowledge, no. Not at this point in time.
We've got to go down the other way, the track. Thanks, man.
Thank you, councillor. Any other comments, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 33, councillors, item reports for decision, item 1301, tender for the supply and lay of new asphalt, Oberon Street, tender 2021-6. The recommendation is that council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166A of the Local Government Regulation 2005 for the supply and laying of asphalt provision on Oberon Street between Earl Street and Strathroy Avenue, T2021-6. That council, at the conclusion of the tender period, a report be provided at the May ordinary council meeting for a selection of suitably qualified companies to be engaged. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons. A seconder, please. Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor Gibbons, you wish to speak?
Yes, for the recommendation is just a standard procedure when the costing exceeds $250,000.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Capel.
All very straightforward, all very standard.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought we already had a company engaged, or we went out to tender in an earlier meeting this year. I think the current supplier was Fulton Hogan, wasn't it? So are we going out separately for asphalt outside that tender? Because we tender for asphalt under the JO for provision and laying of asphalt, don't we?
They don't do asphalt.
No, through the chair.
They do bitumen spraying. Is that the difference?
Yes, spray bitumen seal through Fulton Hogan, the current contractor, where asphalt, obviously Fulton Hogan will provide that service, but we don't actually have specifically for spray seal and or asphalt. So it would be a separate contract.
So we don't have anyone providing asphalt generally.
Through the chair, we don't normally have an expenditure that would require us of this size or capacity. So this being a one-off project of the size of up to $500,000, then it's a specific tender.
Understand. Thank you.
Councillor Capel, any other comments, councillor? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 35, councillors, item 1302, LED Street Program Southern Lights. The recommendation is that council approve the allocation of $219,000 to fund the essential energy LED street lighting replacement project within the 2021-22 operational plan, and allocate a portion of the projected annual savings of $40,000 to fund the installation of additional streetlights where current gaps and deficiencies exist through future operational plans. Do I have a mover? Councillor McKechnie. Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor McKechnie, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I support the recommendation on several of the grounds there that we're going to get significant savings and a return on our funds over a little over 5 years. But the upgrade to LED will give us a lot better security, a lot better lighting in all our streets. And I also support that we've had supported on the grounds that we've had an independent company have a look and assess what we already have and the areas for improvement and some areas where we might need not as much lighting. And there should be some good gains for us there cost-wise ongoing, and some benefits all around for the community in safety and motor vehicle safety, pedestrian safety, all our walking groups and what have you. So yeah, I think it's well worth the project to go ahead. Yeah, fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Caper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, mostly echoing what Councillor McKechnie said. We've got here a project to upgrade out-of-date lighting, and in doing so, increasing safety around the town for the community, and generally improving the town amenity, and doing so with a saving in costs. And I note that here in the statements that the cost of funds is lower than the cost of the funds allowed by essential energy. So it's a no-brainer basically to pay the amount of money, the 209,000 up front. Otherwise it'd be like borrowing money on a bank card. So I think I fully support the move, and I think it will be a great thing for the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Killam.
Thank you very much. I support what Councillor McKechnie and Capel have said. I think it's a great project. The project actually supplies us with new lighting booms, new lights, and controllers.
That's right.
And once that's installed, the electrical supply, Central Energy, then looks after the maintenance
That's correct.
at no cost to us.
That's right.
So we pay the capital costs,
Yep.
then they own them.
Yep.
And look after them. I know it's a wonderful system we have in Australia, isn't it? What I would like is, through you, Madam Mayor, the General Manager, can you explain why in the table on page 36, if we're looking at a figure of $219,000 as a capital cost to us, the cost of the upgrades down is $302,000, and the net capital cost of council is $209,000.
Through the chair, it will go to assist in the other upgrades that we do that have been proposed as part of the report. It will also help and assist in getting that first part moving along. So the 209,000 is the original replacement under the luminaries.
Yep.
The additional 10,000 will assist in developing the minor projects that we need to do as part of this project.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 on page 36 and 37.
That's correct.
Sorry. Councillor?
The upgrades.
Councillor McKibben.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm still a little confused on that, because we have on the table on page 36.
Yep.
We have cost of upgrade 302,316, residual value of lights being replaced, radio light 618.
81.
81. Total capital cost to council, we get to 232. A net capital cost. So we get ESC credits from New South Wales if we do this, do we? That's 23,000.
Correct.
So how did we get from the 302 to the 232?
Through the chair, welcome to Southern Lights.
What does that mean?
So as part, so this probably sends to Councillor McKibben's original question about what is the Southern Lights program and how can we do it. The whole purpose of Southern Lights was a mass production or a mass payment for luminaries.
So because we've joined with everyone else.
Correct, there is a substantial saving in that space.
Okay, I understand that. So, and I understand now the ownership concept where we pay the money but really don't own the asset. It goes to, as soon as we pay the money, it basically become, and it's purchased, it becomes an asset of essential energy, which is interesting, but I suppose that means we don't have to maintain
through
maintain it.
through the chair.
We also don't get the benefit of any depreciation or anything else on it.
Through the chair, much to the pleasure of my Director of Corporate Services to my right.
So the 209,000.
Yep.
We are allocating for this project. Where is it coming from?
So through the chair, as it's indicated in this report,
Are we going to
would be
borrow
as
it?
part of a general allocation out of the 21-22 operational plan.
21-22.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll be in the 21-2
So-
operational plan. So when we do the next amendment to the operational plan, we will have to include this. Or is it included already as a budgeted item?
As part of this, we can't do that until you move on whether you want to pay the money and get the return early or go through the essential energy process and get the limited refund. So once council has determined which way they want to go, we will then include it accordingly in our operational plan or draft operational plan for 21-22.
So can I ask, through you, Madam Mayor, the 2021-22 operational plan and our budget for next year can accommodate this expenditure
Through the chair, yes, we have
within current budgeting process, within our budget process, we can accommodate it. Okay. All right. On that basis, I'm prepared to support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Donny.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Local businesses have been requesting and asking about this for some time, so it's good to see it finally coming around. I take Councillor McKibben's point. That was exactly what I was wondering myself as to what pressure this is putting on our resources of the 200,000 in our next budgeting process. But I also drew attention to point 2 on the top of page 36. To me, if I'm reading that right, it suggests that we can either borrow or use our own funding sources to undertake that whilst we're examining the impact of the 200,000. But I'm very pleased to hear staff say they think they can accommodate that 200,000 into the budget possibility as it stands. There was one other minor thing, but no, I think I'm happy with that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
As before, Madam Mayor, I'm just concerned about the timeframe on the maintenance on these LED lights if they become faulty. I think we should have an agreement with Central Energy that they get repaired within 48 hours, to be honest. If you've got a LED light that's strobing on and off, it sends you bloody crazy. So part of this, we must have an agreement. And at the moment, it takes, I think the lights out on the top of the roundabout coming into Oberon were out. It took Essential Energy, I think, 10 weeks to repair them. So that's, and it was logged. I rung the lady back. They weren't all out, but I rung the lady back. They logged, but we need to have an understanding how long it's going to take to repair these things. With a bit of luck, the warranty would be good, but you must cover all bases.
I'm sure the General Manager will note that, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
I just, following on from Councillor McCarthy, and it's obviously an operational issue, but it may be a service level agreement required with to say, well, yes, we're prepared to go ahead. Central Energy signed a service level agreement on the basis of fixing lights within 48 hours, and if they don't, then we get a reduction in tariff or something to incentivise them to do it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Through the chair, I don't know how well the person who owns, runs, and then asks us to pay for their equipment would handle that, but I'm more than happy to ask the question.
Well, we're paying for their equipment.
We also have obligations to do so.
Okay, councillors, I'm going to put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Page 38, councillors, 1303, return of water cards. The recommendation is that council provide an extension of 1 month for all outstanding water cards to be returned, and that in that time, final letters be issued to water card holders outlining that if the card is not returned by 28th of May, their bond will be forfeited. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McCarthy, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Doney, thank you. Wish to speak to this, Councillor McCarthy?
It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Councillor Doney.
Just one thing, Madam Mayor, do we have, and should we contact those last 60 people? Do we have a simple means of?
Yes,
Through
we
the
do.
chair, we have that
Email?
ability.
We
yeah.
do.
I don't know how hard that would be, just to say, let's close this down.
Through the chair, we have done it before. It's a simple process and now
Can we consider that, if that's right?
It's in there, isn't it?
I think that's what I was trying to say to me.
Yes.
It's in the last paragraph. isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor
Oh,
McCarthy.
thank you.
Any other
Good
comments, councillors? The recommendation, all in favour, carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Page 39, councillors, 1304, Black Springs Community Hall guttering repair. The recommendation is that council approves $23,000 transfer from the Works Construction Restricted Fund for repairs to the Black Springs Community Hall guttering and fascia boards. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons, thank you. A seconder, Councillor McKibben, thank you. Councillor Gibbons, you wish to speak to this motion?
Yeah,
This
just so the
recommendation?
floor, I actually witnessed the heavy rains there a few weeks back with the contractors that were working in the hall. It was very obvious where it was leaking. It was coming down inside the main wall and doing damage right into the meeting room. And response to corporate service, community service, and they've done a great job in responding to what was an issue that's probably been going on for a while, but none of us realised until you get a big lot of rain and you can see the snow straps not working. So I'd like to thank you. And the snow straps now are 900 mil apart, a deeper guttering on it, new fascia board, and they've allowed the rain to come off the main roof down onto the skillion roof through the spaces and dispersing the water more evenly. And it's got the other side to do, and they're going to do it very quickly, but that's a great effort, so I'd have to support this. And I see we have $328,000 there for building maintenance. Job well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, obviously a necessary repair. It has to be done, so we need to approve it as soon as possible. Do I understand from Councillor Gibbons that some of the work's already been done?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, okay, fine.
Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, it says the fascia to be replaced. Was it replaced in metal or timber again?
Isn't there a, so the,
It's already been done. I thought we had to vote on this and then get the work done.
it was a bit of an urgent thing, but I didn't actually ask what the fascia board was, but
We'll get back to you on that one, councillor.
metal, I'd say.
Any other comments, councillors? I'm putting recommendation all in favour. Carried, thank you. Reports for information, page 40, item 1401, monthly activity report, general manager. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben and a second, Councillor Doney, thank you. Councillor McKibben, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that I think the signage strategy is just about complete now. If it's not complete, is it? I think it is complete. The only thing I'd say is that I noticed Orange's sign as you come up from the highway the other day actually is probably upstages in that it seems to light up and then it changes colour from green to orange to red, or I think it is, unless I'm going colourblind. Just been a late night. To reflect the autumn colours, I think. It's a pity we didn't think of that.
Really?
No, not really. But no, excellent report. I commend the report. I note that there's been quite a considerable amount of training that has been organised for staff on page 43, which is good to see, and that we've been successful in our recruitment drive, paragraph E on page 43. So I commend the report to you. I suppose the only question I'd ask under business and tourism, how much impact physically has the closure of Jenolan Caves had on the tourism in Oberon?
And through the chair, we're still seeing quite a bit of tourism in and around there. I'm sure it's had an impact. We haven't done the stats for that at this point in time, but certainly I would suspect that the amount of events that we're putting on this time is trying to get visitors into the region, and I think it's working at this point in time.
There have been a couple of comments by people that I don't know what's happened, but they've obviously either missed the signs from this direction or that direction, and they've actually ended up on the Jenolan Caves Road and not realised until they got their hand. They did at one stage have the barriers across at Hartley, but they've been removed. There's just a sign there at the moment. Someone was travelling from Burriga and actually didn't realise it was closed until they got to that side of Oberon where the sign was. And they then went towards Taranai and were complaining to me.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Donny.
They shouldn't leave their home district. Same happened to me. Madam Mayor, just looking on page 43, a couple of two quick things. Under recruitment, 2 officers started successfully yesterday. Positions under this. Correct. Is that correct? Chief Financial Officer of the Technical Services Administrative Assistant.
Yep.
It's good. The total in employee statistics, as you've noted, it fluctuates based on hours, and that's a total based on full-time equivalents, yes?
Yes.
And our full-time actually still sits at about 67, or at 67. Okay. I think we need some more, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
I think we need some more to do all the work. Otherwise, thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Most informative.
Councillor Capel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just highlighting, just reminded me about the impact on the Jenolan Caves closure has had. Obviously, it has had an impact on, but since the beginning of Easter until now, accommodation is unavailable in Oberon every night. Mayfield Garden has been absolutely hectic down there every day. We actually were down there with friends on, I think it was last Thursday. We decided we thought we'd go to the cafe for a coffee at about 10 o'clock, and they said it's booked out until 2:30. So, you know, it's been solid down there every day. There's no accommodation in town, and I think the job that the Tourism and Economic Development Department has been fantastic, and you know, like it's highlighted in here, the write-ups, reports in various media organisations, and I'm also pleased to see that Oberon has been nominated for the top tourism town this year. So I think it really is. Oberon's really travelling very well, and I think we're probably lucky about where we are. It's unfortunate that Jenolan Caves is going through the issues that they are, but we make them do anyway.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to point out for everyone on page 42, the incident breakdown from the Work Health and Safety team. But in February and March, there were no injuries at all. So I think that reflects very well on your Work Health and Safety team and the broader workforce and their commitment to safety.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbons.
Yeah, just on tourism again, for your information, the Burriga statistician says there was 100 vehicles an hour going into the Abercrombie National Park out there during the early days of the holidays. So It's incredible. He might have overplayed it.
I find that very hard to believe.
It is a big industry and there's a lot of people going out there. And I did go to the dam the other day at Burriga and you wouldn't have fitted another caravan in there. So people are finding a lot more to do around our area than just go to the cave.
You ring you at 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock.
Any other comments, Councillor McCarthy?
Just a couple, Madam Mayor. The plant mechanic, this replaces a retired staff member?
Correct.
Thank you. The management agreement with the people that run the swim pool, does that mean that we now have the shortened season for the swim pool? So it's gone back to what it was originally. Thank you. And the sign on that's been damaged on the Duckenroy Road, so that's claimed under our insurances.
Yes, through the chair.
Eh?
Through the chair, that's the way it'll be dealt with.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments, councillors, on prudent recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 46, councillors, item 1402, monthly activity report, planning and development. The recommendation is that the report is received as information. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor McKibben. And a seconder, thank you. Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor McKibben, do you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, detailed report. I didn't note here, but I think I've noted somewhere else that the independent living units, at least one report, we would expect next month in our May papers. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's the expectation, yes.
And on the Indoor Fitness Centre, have we got a closeout report on that?
Through the chair, it'll be done at the same time.
May.
Yep.
So both Mays, and there'll be a separate report, two reports, I assume, on the independent living units. We'll get both at that time.
Through the chair, if the
Second one
information
is
has
with
been provided to me, yes.
Right, but we'll at least get one. Okay, apart from that, the only other question is, I can't recall, it may have been dealt with when we dealt with the issue of the tip and the notice of motion that arises that in the report that's to come into the future. It may be dealt with in that report, but in relation to the pound, when is that actually going to be transferred out to the proximity of the tip?
Do you want to take this, Director?
Thank you through the chair.
Sorry, the pound, it's always been envisaged that the pound will be moved from where it currently is to the tip to allow for the new STP, I think.
Yes, correct.
That is correct, and we're working towards a project where we can get the finalisation of that developed.
And is that part of the funding, the funding proposal?
Through the chair, that has been funded.
That's what I thought. And it takes account of water and electricity needs.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Solar electricity.
Solar
needs,
electricity
yes.
and water tank.
Yes.
Okay.
Through
do we have a
chair,
date?
we need to do it in accordance with the companion animals legislation,
Yes.
and there is some things that need to be dealt with in that regard. Definitely needs water, definitely needs all the provisions of,
Is the tank going to be providing enough water?
we'll make sure the tank provides enough water.
Correct. So any date, are we looking at this year or next?
As soon as possible, to be perfectly honest with you, councillor, because I want the STP site
Yes.
clear and ready for instant startup if that's available.
Well, that's why I was asking the question. So I'm just
We're on the
wondering,
same wavelength.
we have a schedule for it.
As soon as possible.
Okay. All right, fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Capel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is also like the previous one, an indication of how we, Oberon, is travelling at the moment. With the list there, new dwelling in the applications, the development and planning, new dwelling, and the graph highlights it there. I think things are really bolting along in this area, and I can see that the Planning and Development Director is earning his keep in this place.
Councillor McCarthy?
Just a couple of things. Through you, Madam Mayor, is our expectation at the moment 8 weeks turnaround for DA?
Through the chair, that's correct, councillor. Yes, there's a considerable backlog at the moment.
Okay, so we can't get any more help to make it a bit quicker?
Through the chair, we do have help 1 day a week at the moment, so we're doing our best.
I realise that that's a local person, there's no one outside that shorten the backlog.
Through the chair, I'll take that on notice, councillor, and we'll have a look at that.
Okay, thank you. And I've been told it's in your ball court, the carport stand at self-care units, the slab's been down for 6 months. I know you haven't been there that long, but when are we to see the carport stand at Curtis Street self-care units, in respect that we've got frosts occurring now, and it was taken away from the building side of it, wasn't it? So the council seen more value in doing it themselves, but where are they?
Again, thank you. Through the chair, with the finalisation of the report coming, we need to check the budget to ensure there's money left for to undertake the carport at the end. So we'll have a look at that. I'll take that on notice as well. Come back to you.
I don't understand how you got to look at a budget to do it. There was money provided in the funds. Why isn't it been actioned? That's what I can't understand.
Through the chair, just to give Damien some help because he's new on the ball. That has been, the application has been submitted to the shed company to finalise the carports. There is money allocated to that project. It's a matter of getting Damien up to speed on progressing that as soon as we can.
Okay, I'll come back to when we poured the slab. Surely goodness, did we engage someone at that stage to put the carports up? Because I remember you coming down there at December.
Yep.
And it's, we should have been doing that then, so that we shouldn't be in winter putting carports up to protect the people's cars. That's all I'm getting at. Surely goodness, as a part of the thing, we took it away from the builder to do it. So I just can't see why it's been done.
Through the chair, a number of things have happened in that space that you're well aware of is the reason why we didn't do it. The gas, a number of issues that we had with contractors and dealing with that, with the construction of the units. It was considered that the carport should be one of the last things that we do because we've taken ownership or control of that matter.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on this one, Councillor? Councillor Dunn.
Madam Mayor, just food inspections. I notice there's none there. Do we do those in concert with?
We bring somebody in, we contract that out.
Do we do that ourselves or do we?
No, we contract that out.
I beg your pardon?
We contract that out.
Contract it out. And what's the cycle like at the moment?
Through the chair, there hasn't been a cycle because COVID, there was a decision made not to have a burden on food owners, and that was across the board in terms of local government. The mayor is correct in her statement. We generally provide a contractor who comes in and does it as a cost recovery process. So there is some independence around that because food handling is generally very emotive, to say the least, and it's the best way to deal with it when you need to action something like that.
And when is there likely to be another? I appreciate that people are coming back into establishments.
Yep.
Other than just pure takeaway. When is the next intended or likely cycle of inspections?
So
are they biannual? Are they?
No, they're an annual inspection, and we'll look at renewing that probably in the new financial year.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this one, Councillor? Not, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 50, Councillors, 1403, monthly activity report, technical services. Recommendation there is that the report is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons, thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kellum, thank you. Councillor Gibbons, do you wish to speak to this report?
Yeah, just wondering how technical services are going with it all. We've got so many things happening. Prepare grant funding, Safer Roads program, fixing local roads, maintenance grading our own road, and natural disasters, snow events, and right down to the RMS doing work on our state roads. Just a bit of a review of how they're coping with it, and we're on budget and on a timeline. How's it going? I just feel it's been a really busy time and the weather's been reasonable, but yeah, just a bit of a report on that.
Through the chair, look, certainly it's been a busy time. Prioritisation, I think, is really the key thing with our internal resources, and then complementing that with the assistance of external contractors. So again, we will continue down that path with the busy schedule ahead, whilst we still are on Camels River Road and the like, which is one of the larger projects. You're quite cognizant of weather ahead. We certainly have a program of activities that will see us into winter, and including, I suppose, the maintenance program, which we can't discount the fact that we need to maintain our unsealed road network and all sealed network to that end regarding weather and alike. So yes, I mean, staff have certainly been stretched, but we are continuing to do recruitment as required to fill the gaps as we need.
Yeah, there's just been an odd, people wondering how the maintenance grading is going, and had a few more reports today. So I guess with the graders and rollers down a bit, they're just going to have to wait a bit longer until they're all scheduled.
Yeah, through the chair, look, it's certainly on a priority basis. The overseers are getting around and reviewing those issues and prioritising.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cullen.
Technical Services Director has been particularly busy with roads and water and sewage and everything else. And I think the workforce has done a great job. I just have one question. Status of the training for our new fluoridation plant operators.
Yeah, through the chair. At this point, the operators are well advanced in their training. They're expected to be fully accredited here early May, so that will then allow us then to have our own internal staff run the fluoridation component of the water treatment plant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Madam Mayor. On page 52, it shows that we're going to do the footpath up Scotia Avenue. There's a lot of old poles there, and I was just wondering whether to consider that we could put a conduit underneath the footpath out to, say, the curb and gutter, in anticipation that we take some undergrounding on there in the future. There's some of the services that are already underground by the owners right out, and yeah, it's only the old poles that are in that street. I think there's about 14 of them. But it's just something that we might take on notice, that we're going to be doing earthworks to get the footpath done. We can consider that. Look at that. That was all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Some of these road verges, is there any chance of putting a bit of grass seed down on some of them? As you've seen, the slippage and all that from Genolan Caves comes back from not having matter. Like you take the Edith Road, you've done a lot of roadworks out there. There's a lot of raw material. A little bit of grass seed will bind all that and keep it together. With winter coming on, that's all.
Yeah, through the chair. Generally, the guys do put seed out, but I will take that on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Yeah, and we can only commend the Parks and Gardens staff. They're doing a fantastic job. They're short staffed. They've got someone filling in to do the toilet cleaning and it's taken away from the Parks and Gardens. To monitor the tip, taken away from Parks and Gardens. So yeah, and it's good to see that last week they completed Warrego Lane apparently, which is a good result.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just noting the the grant that comes up obviously on grants and has been announced for Burriga and Arkstone roads. Is it intended to fix the slippage on Bull Hill? That's on the Burriga Road near the Mount David turnoff, with some of the money that's received under that grant. And is there a timing on this? Because it has been, slippage has been in place for 6 months now.
Yes, through the chair, I provided the general manager with a response just here recently in relation to that. The intention is to have that fixed under the general fund. It doesn't then wait for fixing local road stage 2 funding. The anticipated timeframe is in within the next 2 to 3 weeks to get a start. The slumping in the material, we've sort of been waiting for it to dry up because it is quite, I suppose, moving all the time, and getting a machine in there also is obviously in the steep embankment been quite a challenge, I think, in terms of taking that work on. But in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're hoping to get a start and have that completed, certainly during May at this stage.
And we're satisfied that the solution proposed is going to solve the problem. I don't think it's happened before. In an area.
Through the chair, that's the anticipation that the fix will be the resolve. So it's really getting the sheet water from the road to a controlled state where it can get off, I think, and not be concentrated within the apex of the curve where the slumping has occurred on the embankment.
Just if I could reference something that Councillor McCarthy said. When we're using seed on the road verges where we're talking about putting seed, can we please not use any type of love grass, because it's all very hard to distinguish from African love grass, which is a noxious weed. It's a priority 1 weed. So, and the love grass that the RMS has been using is very hard to distinguish from that love grass. And our inspectors are having particular difficulties in distinguishing the two. So please don't use a love grass variety. I too would commend Director of Technical Services. There's been a lot of work on and a lot of work to come. And there's been a lot of work on the parks and gardens. So a good report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Donor.
I've just noticed on page 53 that two of the big subdivision jobs at the moment, the Titania estate and the Fracking Glen estate. Various on-site meetings. I'm just wondering if there's no substantive issues through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager.
Yep, through the chair. No, look, that certainly was just an on-site meeting with the developer and their consultant in relation to planning for their design and works as part of the DA process. So that's pretty much what that on-site meeting was about.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And also, I suppose there's been some meetings when the technical services got an absolute hammering, but they're looking pretty good today. The Anzac Avenue in O'Connell looks absolutely schmick. The recreation ground looks terrific, and Warrego Lane is getting much praise and pleasure from the residents for saying how good it's looking. Just regard council that in the future maybe we make sure we're just not the ones who pay for it next time. But it's looking good down there. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Page 54, councillors, item 1404, monthly activity report, corporate services. The recommendation is that the report is received as information. Could I have someone to move that? Councillor Kelly, thank you. A seconder. Councillor McKibben, thank you. Next to speak to the report, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, briefly, Madam Mayor. I know it's been a busy week for all the directors, a busy month, and I particularly noted the great effort that the Corporate Services Director and her staff put in for the Seniors Week and the Youth Week, and I think it was much appreciated by anyone who had anything to do with those two activities. So that was excellent work. I noted an advertisement this morning for a new library manager. I assume that Astrid has decided it's time to retire.
That's right.
And that's sad because I think she's been a very fine library manager.
You bought a new car in the caravan.
Oh, she's off.
Yes, it was sad to see you go. Councillor McKibben, did you wish to speak to this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wanting a comment because I don't see it reported here, and I don't think it's in the status of resolutions as to where we are with the EMS.
Through the chair, I'll let the corporate service director take
Thought it was meant to be completed by the end of March. I'm assuming it's done and dusted, and that's why it's not in the report. But I'd like to understand the resolution and who we appointed.
So through the chair, the EMS working party met last week and put a recommendation to the EMT. Their preferred provider will be Open Office. So we'll be we will start the process to transition. It will be an 18-month to 2-year process to move the whole organisation over, but that process has started.
Okay, so we're moving to Open Office. And if I could, Madam Mayor, just
look forward to councillor portals.
good. If I could, just on the next issue on page 55, which is finance. So I'm assuming that the proposal for the hub stage 2, and we have appointed a project manager, is we're asking for a final design and construction contract, or we're asking for we're going out to an RFT for the final design, and then a separate RFT for construction.
Through the chair, the tender for the final design is out now, and then we're looking to put the tender out for construction by June.
Request for tender.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so there'll be two separate. Is it wise to issue the RFT for construction until we have the final design in hand?
Through the chair, we're hoping that they'll go hand in hand. So the timing will be the design will come through, and then we'll be able to put the request for construction out.
Okay, so we'll have the actual detailed design before we issue the RFT for the construction. That's what I'm asking. Yeah. I didn't think that the detailed design was going to be done so quickly. And when the detailed design comes back, council will have an opportunity to look at that prior to it actually being part of the RFT for the construction.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, just wanted to get the staging correct. Staging in my mind correct. Okay, thank you very much. I'm pleased to second and I again, I think the ins and outs on the table on page 56 of the town improvement, they'll be really good to see how it's going.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'm pleased to second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Donny.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, it's great. The diversity and interest of activities and services. Again, I always am very proud of the way the council provides some low-cost accommodation. I think that's sort of a fine thing we do. And I just draw reference to, I noticed in an email that related to this in the Seniors Week, that the Lifeline session tomorrow was called off. We only had 2 participants.
Through chair, the session yesterday.
Yesterday, sorry. I noticed we had Lifeline present in O'Connell last night, and just a recommendation to council that if you have not been to this introductory one, they do, that if you get the opportunity to go and do it. I had thought it was very worthwhile and pushed for it to occur, but I had a little bit of healthy scepticism, but I left with that thoroughly gone. It was very informative and very useful. I can only recommend councillors in their roles in the community that they take the opportunity to do that course with Lifeline. It was a 2-hour introductory, but I felt it was Street.
Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 60, councillors, item 1405, statement of investments. The recommendation is that council receive report item 1405 as information. I move it, please, councillors. Councillor Kellam, thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Kellam, wish to speak to the report?
Just briefly, once again, the interest rates are making life a bit more interesting than it needs to be for us. I think we probably need to think about looking again at the restrictions we put on our financial investments last year, noting that that was a period of intense uncertainty when we did that, and we are now at a much more certain state of economics. You're suggesting the stock
Councillor
exchange?
McCarthy?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a firm belief that our bank governor, Philip Lowe, got it wrong. The interest shouldn't have been dropped as so low. And as you see that with the property market starting to turn the corner, in some places, some of the places are going up as 2% a month. And wasn't there a place in Sydney tonight that made over $2 million, and prior to that 18 months ago it sold for 1.57. So yeah, I think they've got it wrong, going so low. But anyway, you can't do much about it if you're only one. My mate next door, I think, would appreciate it going up as well.
Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? All in favour, councillors? Carried, thank you. Page 63, councillors, 1406, grants monthly update. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, and a second, Councillor Capel. Thank you. Councillor McKibben, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A detailed report. One of the things I was going to ask is on page 63 with the grant, successful grant application for Arkston and Burriga roads. Will that now make Arkston and Burriga Road suitable for B doubles? Within that part of Burriga Road that's within the Oberon Shire or local council area.
Through the chair, possibly will increase the ability to review that on that basis.
Well, in undertaking the works, will we be cognizant of the fact that the road could or would in future be suitable for B doubles?
Yeah, through the chair again, yes, I believe it, depending on what capacity B double that is, but yeah, look, certainly it would certainly favour B doubles.
So once Campbell's River Road is done, Arkstone Road, Burriga Road, will that allow B doubles to go on all those roads?
Through the chair, look, I don't see why it wouldn't.
So council would be supporting that?
That would be up to council.
I realise that, but one of the things is the road has to be of a suitable quality standard for Transport New South Wales. It is now, isn't it? Who approves it to actually approve it, and council has to give a letter recommending it. So what I'm asking is basically spending all this money on these roads. Are they going to be to a standard that council could recommend that they would be suitable for B double?
So through the chair, if the second paragraph on that thing basically says exactly that.
Well, does it? It says a standard
to support safe and
high performance vehicles, and not necessarily, I don't think, logging trucks. It doesn't say B double stock trucks, and there's two different, there's various variations of HPVs and B doubles, and there's a stock. I'm talking about certain logging trucks are, as I understand this, correct me, Technical Services Director, of a standard like a B double, but there are obviously stock trucks as well. Certain forestry trucks fall below the B double, but certain forestry trucks come into it, but I'm not sure where the criteria falls.
Yeah, through the chair, certainly mentioning capacity types have to be taken into account. It does support B doubles, but again, it will be on merit in terms of what is being proposed before council and HVR, I suppose the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, which comes to us to make that assessment. at that time, but yes, it would support B doubles. Just cognizant of committing to what capacity, that's all, because there's so many differing types, as you mentioned.
So the current Campbell's River crossing, I would have thought would have been a difficult area for B doubles, maybe. With its upgrade, would that support a B double?
Through the chair, I don't see why it wouldn't support B doubles.
Okay, I'm not talking about the new viaduct that we're still looking for grant funding. Okay, thank you. That's, I would commend this report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Capel, wish to speak to that?
Nothing further, Greg.
Any other comments on this one, Councillor Gibbons?
Just on the B doubles, the Campbell's River Road has run 26 metre B doubles for quite a while out there. It's now an 8 metre road. Just through the technical services, this new grant that's just come through, that'll be an 8 metre seal width, will it?
Through the chair, certainly we're looking to support what we can within the guidelines, and yes, looking at up to an 8 metre seal, correct.
So that's going to lead from the Campbell's River Road into the village and then beyond on the Rockley Road. How far is it where the logging routes are going to Mount David Road?
It's going to Gilman Dyke, he says.
Yeah, through the chair, look, it's going through to close to Gilman Dyke, I believe, and it does support the actual routes for logging. That's the intent.
Wow.
So
In the report, 23.6 kilometres.
23.6, so I was asked this afternoon, so it's not going back along the Arkstone Road from the Campbell's River join.
Through
Down to
the
Burriga.
Yeah, through the chair would be the supporting group would be back through Burriga via Campbell's River Road.
Very good.
Put the rest of
That's
that,
tomorrow.
Councillor McCarthy.
Just a clarification, so if B double gets supported down past out of Burriga down towards the Mount David Way, then does that mean that the mill doesn't have to comply with the access? Like the mill have applied for B double access before and have been knocked back because it's not suitable where it is. But once it's approved past there, they automatically can come on board, can't they?
Through the chair, that if that were to be the case, that would permit them. Yes, in that circumstance, but yes, again, we'd have to look at what their from the origin to the destination, I suppose, is what we need to review.
If they can't go west towards Rockley, they only come this way.
Yeah, that's through the chair. Yes, that's right. So supporting it via Campbell's River Road again, Abercrombie, and back to the east.
Yeah, so, but now they won't have, like before they were required to update to be able to get B doubles in. Once this comes available, they don't have to update, do they?
Through the chair, they'd certainly still have to make permit to be able to do, certainly whatever their business activity is. So that again, through the NHVR, that's where they would make application and to count through and back through to council for review and permit if that be the case.
Well, my understanding is out on the Abercrombie Road, an applicant there, and they had to move and after RTA went out and looked, or whatever they call themselves today, and they had to move the gateway. When the Abercrombie Road became a B double access, they didn't have to move.
Yeah, through the chair. Again, depending on where they're accessing the road, I suppose, and those types of things need to be reviewed. So as part of that application, that's what would have to occur.
Okay, thank you.
Put the recommendation, councillors. All in favour? Okay, thank you. Page 67, councillors, item 1407, water and sewer plant report. Recommendation is that the report is received as information. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Keller. Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor Keller, would you like to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Delighted to see the dam getting up to a respectable level. I do have a question for the Technical Services Director on the sewage plant. That 28,000 kilolitres going through in the last week of March, was that overflow from stormwater? I assume it has to be, actually.
Through the chair, yes, the plant did experience some stormwater infiltration, and that does indicate that certainly there are possibly a number of connections or illegal connections, perhaps that we are looking at a program that will be looking at trying to track down where those are.
That's smoke testing, I assume.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because it's extraordinary. That's 4 times a normal week. So, and did the sewage treatment plant, despite its decrepit age, survive okay with all that amount?
Yeah, through the chair, look, it did handle quite well, considering considering the extensive rainfall that we had. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Capel, you wish to speak to the
Nothing really, Madam Mayor, except that it's good to see a happy report. Can somebody tell us what the level of the dam is currently? It's 43.2 in March.
I think it's 44.3 or something last time I looked.
That's
He's halfway through
that's
now.
good. And that's not really 44 is close enough. Yeah, so that's great. Ruth, yeah. Thank you.
44.6.
44.6. Still coming up though.
Oh, bizarre.
But it's also interesting, I've noticed it before when I went through this, that the week 22nd to the 31st, water consumption has gone up quite significantly from, I suppose, when it was
I think
raining.
that's 9 days, though. The others are all 6 and 7.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, 22nd to the 31st is the week of all.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank
No
you,
more.
Councillor. Any other comments on this one? Let's put the recommendation, all in favour. Carried, thank you. Page 70, councillors, 1408, local government elections timetable. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Capel, thank you, and a seconder, please. Councillor McKechnie, thank you. Councillor Capel, do you wish to speak to the report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor, it's just for information.
Councillor McKechnie, would you like to speak to the report?
No, it is what it is.
Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation, all in favour. Carried, thank you. 73 councillors, 1409, monthly update, status of council resolutions. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillors? Councillor Kellam and Councillor Capel, thank you. Councillor Kellam.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing in particular except to note that it is remains a much better format than I've ever had.
Thank you. Councillor Capel.
Indeed, no, nothing that I wish to raise. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments, councillors?
Yes,
Councillor
Madam
McCarthy.
Mayor, the first one on the sheet, it's been going since 2018. Have we put the survey pegs in on the corners out there?
Dogrocks Road.
Hey?
Dogrocks Road.
Yes, number 6.
Through the chair, yeah, certainly we have identified the site. We know where it is.
Okay. Can we hand the rest of the information over to our local member and get him to do something, get this finalised? Surely goodness, the lands board and that, we should be able to get this all finalised, shouldn't we?
Yes, through the chair, it's done.
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 Closed.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
closed.
I thought you were going to congratulate staff on getting rid of the item that's been there so
Okay,
long.
just shows you how fast local government moved, didn't it? Thank you.
Anything else, councillor? Councillor McKinnon.
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor, I've actually been usurped because I was going to congratulate the council on finally getting the Dog Rocks Road thing. Matter resolved. After how many years?
3 years.
Sorry, so I was usurped, sorry.
Anything else?
No,
Any other comments on this one, councillor? Councillor Dolan.
I just, not of great significance, I just noticed the second last one is, the purchase of those mobile traffic lights. And I think I remember raising that some years ago when we used to be able to travel to other countries, and raising the point that, mobile traffic lights and those sorts of things are in intense use in other countries, rather than a stop go that we spend a lot of money on. And even all of a sudden they're all around the central west too. It's good to see. It's a good saving. And I think that getting away from the traffic control services, which are extremely expensive, it's good.
Councillor Kippen.
Sorry, I'm raising something that was raised about the traffic. My only question is, I wasn't at the Works Committee meeting as I had to depart rather rapidly to try and unbog a truck. My question on this traffic lights thing, my only question on this is that I think they're great, but of all the traffic lights I have seen recently, whether it's on Hampton Road, whether it's on Jenolan Caves Road, Duck Malloy Road, or anywhere else, we have the traffic lights, but we still have two people sitting in a truck.
To make sure they work.
To make sure they work. And I'm wondering the labour saving. I really would love to see something about labour saving, because every time I see these traffic lights, I think, well, what a great idea. But then I see the two people in the truck sitting there rather than one person going stop, go. And now they seem to be playing on their phone. So I just question, are we getting a real labour saving?
Yeah, through the chair, certainly we are getting a labour saving. I mean, Transport for New South Wales has different regulations and requirements on their road network as opposed to how we need to operate. Again, we still have our traffic management plans or traffic control plans, but again, if we're working on a Transport for New South Wales worksite, we will be burdened by certainly their regulations, but again, in our circumstances where we've got these large works projects and multiple activities, I think it will be certainly a saving and a benefit of having traffic lights over physical traffic control where we don't need it.
So if we go through Oberon roads and we suddenly see two people sitting in a vehicle and we've got this stop go, I should be coming back to you and saying,
Snap, send, solve.
sorry,
Snap, send, solve.
right, fine.
Through the chair, if it's on
Abercrombie.
O'Connell or Duck Road, as the
Or
director has
Abercrombie.
indicated, Abercrombie is a regional road as well, so there could be some restrictions on it. But yeah, so there's different horses for different courses.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Councillor Caton.
Just a little bit of trivia, Madam Mayor, to add to this. The contractors who were putting up the railings on the Abercrombie Road, they have these new super traffic lights like we're getting, with the counting down the numbers. So, and that's really good because you can get your engine revving at the right time. So there's no hold-ups at all.
Thank you, councillor. Anything else, councillor, before I put the recommendation? All in favour? Carried, thank you.
We should put something on now, but
Page 89, councillors, item 15. There is no urgent business this evening. Item 16, closed session confidential reports. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of the kind as referred to in section 10A bracket 2 of the Act, and should be dealt with in part of the meeting closed to the media and closed to the public. I'd like to thank the members of the public for joining us at this evening's meeting and the Zoom meeting. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Thank you.
I now call for a councillor to move. The council will move into closed session, please. Councillor McKibben and a seconder. Could we just have some silence while we... The following resolutions were made in closed session and there were no members of the public present at the time. Item 1602, that council do not refund water usage for assessment 1236 1091 as outlined in the report. The next ordinary meeting of Oberon Council will be held on Tuesday, May 18, 2021, commencing at 5:30 p.m. I declare the meeting closed at 7:56 p.m. and wish you all a good night. Thank you, councillors.